Welcome to Read Side by Side's video series. This session, Developing Literacy Systems to Support All Students, will be presented by Bethany Robinson, Vice President of Read Side by Side. In order to set up strong systems for literacy in a district or building, we first have to define our ultimate goal. We want all of our students to be skilled readers, readers who demonstrate fluent execution of the text with deep comprehension. The two cannot be separated and are ultimately interdependent. Fluency increases comprehension, while comprehension supports fluency. So what makes a reader so skilled? Dr. Hollis Scarborough helps us make sense of what supports skilled reading with his analogy of a rope. The tightly coiled rope is meant to represent skilled reading, our outcome. His studies and others reveal that there are two supportive strands contributing to this rope. The first strand is language comprehension or listening comprehension. Long before a child picks up a book, they are building this part of the rope. The first component of language comprehension is background knowledge, which takes many forms. Background knowledge begins with our experiences. For some children, this includes visits to the zoo, museums, or a trip to another state. For all students, it includes their interaction within their family and community, in other words, their culture. Background knowledge also refers to topic knowledge. Children who get excited to learn about topics such as dinosaurs, Amelia Earhart, or astronomy, for example, have exposure to unique topics that prepare them for later learning. Finally, background knowledge includes literary knowledge, knowledge of genres, or simply an understanding of how stories go. All three types of knowledge contribute to reading success. Another component of language comprehension, of course, is language. This includes oral language, language that references things in our immediate environment. These words and phrases are placed within sentence structures. Children begin to develop oral language immediately, even before birth. Finally, as children are read to and experience learning situations, academic vocabulary is developed. The final component of language comprehension is verbal reasoning. Reasoning is often measured within our reading standards, but reasoning is developed outside of the literate world first. Young children notice cause and effect relationships on the playground, practice problem solving while helping in the kitchen, or make inferences while overhearing one side of a phone call. This ability to reason supports reading success. For many students, the language comprehension strand of the rope is frayed. I invite you to pause here for discussion. The second contributing strand of the skilled reading rope is word recognition. This is the ability to recognize, decode, and spell isolated words. Print knowledge is represented in this strand. Print knowledge includes understanding of print concepts such as left to right and top to bottom directionality and one-to-one matching, as well as letter knowledge. Word recognition also encompasses phonological awareness. This is defined as the ability to manipulate word parts orally. People say phonological awareness is a skill that can be practiced with your eyes closed, and this is very true because it doesn't involve print. It includes skills such as orally blending and segmenting syllables, recognizing and producing rhyme, orally blending and segmenting individual sounds. When print knowledge and phoneme awareness come together, phonics, decoding and spelling, is born. Basic phonics describes the work of K and 1. Here, students match sound to print as they read, and print to sound as they spell. Basic patterns such as short vowels and consonant spellings are introduced. Advanced phonics is the work of 1st through 5th grades as students learn to read multisyllabic words. Advanced phonics, also called word analysis, focuses student attention on syllabication patterns as well as morphological patterns, prefix, suffix, and root, to read and spell. For many students, the word recognition strand of the rope is frayed. I invite you to pause here for discussion. The Simple View of Reading by Hoover and Goff helps us think about the priority given to each strand. We know that listening comprehension and word recognition support reading comprehension, but is one part of the rope more important than the other? Research tells us that the answer is no. Both parts of the rope are equally important. Reading comprehension can be predicted when we multiply language comprehension times word recognition. So what if we had a struggling reader? Say a struggling student's listening comprehension was at 50%, and the same student's word recognition was at 50%. What could we predict their reading comprehension would be? It would be 25%. See, when you multiply percentages lower than 100%, the outcome will be lower than either variable. Let's look at a student from a classroom I worked with. Caitlynne was a 5th grader who was moderate, 70%, in both listening comprehension and word recognition. It did not appear that she was a red flag. She received core instruction, but didn't receive any other additional supports. When state test scores came back, the teacher and I discovered that Caitlynne didn't pass. At the time, we didn't know about the simple view of reading and assumed Caitlynne had test anxiety. But with a simple view, could we have predicted that outcome? Absolutely. 70% times 70% equals 49%. We could have known in the fall that Caitlynne would not pass the state test without additional supports. Many schools provide intervention supports for decoding. Had we done this with Caitlynne and gotten her word recognition score to 100%, what would the outcome have been? Reading comprehension would have gone up to 70%. But it cannot go any higher without a change also in listening comprehension. Listening comprehension sets the upper limits for reading comprehension. Many of you are wondering what assessments you can use to anticipate the needs of your students. A strong assessment system will give you the tools you need to determine whether students are on grade level, diagnose specific areas of need, and inform instruction. The first step is to screen for skilled reading using a grade level passage that is nationally normed. Some examples include the STAR, DIBELS, Ames-Webb, or Easy CBM assessment. The second step is to use your screener to determine who is below grade level. For below grade level students, you will then use diagnostics to uncover the root cause. Is the root cause language comprehension? Find out by reading aloud a grade level comprehension passage to the student. Follow that with a retell summary or comprehension questions to assess listening comprehension. Or is the root cause decoding issues? Find out by performing a decoding diagnostic like the Diagnostic Decoding Survey found at realllygreatreading.com. Or you may find that it is both. Some students will have language deficits as well as decoding issues. Both will impact skilled reading. What screening and diagnostic assessments are you currently using? How can you improve your assessment system? I invite you to pause here for discussion. We can use Scarborough's rope to set up our assessment system, and we can also use it to plan our literacy schedule. A literacy block should build language comprehension or listening comprehension. Accomplish this goal through an instructional read-aloud of Common Core complex text, focusing on vocabulary and verbal reasoning. At 3rd grade and beyond, continue this practice, but also provide the book for students to follow along in. This will give students the opportunity to cite evidence during discussion. Also include time for building word recognition. At kinder and 1st grade, this work will focus on basic phonics, while at 2nd grade and up, it will focus on word analysis. This routine can be attached to the vocabulary during read aloud. Finally, provide time for students to apply both language comprehension and word recognition when they read their own text. At primary, this will be more guided. Small groups may meet at the horseshoe table to read with teacher support, while other students read independently in Just Right books. At third grade on up, accountable independent reading will take the place of guided reading, as students work more independently in book clubs. It is recommended that the literacy block at elementary encompass no less than 120 minutes. At K2, the time should be more or less equally divided between 4 areas of focus: 30 minutes for read aloud and vocabulary, 30 minutes for phonics skills, 30 minutes for guided and independent reading, and 30 minutes for writing. While this is the recommendation, these tasks should be integrated, not isolated. A kindergarten teacher may, for example, do 3 10-minute read-alouds spread throughout the literacy block, or phonics skill work may include 15 minutes of whole group instruction, as well as 15 minutes in small group, for example. At third grade and up, less time will be needed for phonics instruction. Divide your time into 3 segments: 40 minutes for shared reading and vocabulary, including a syllabication and morphology routine within the vocabulary, 40 minutes for accountable independent reading, which may look like book clubs, and 40 minutes for writing. I invite you to pause here and discuss your literacy block. Thank you for participating in the Read Side by Side video series. I hope this session, Developing Systems to Support All Students, has helped you reflect on your assessments and schedules. I encourage you to visit our website, www.readsidebyside.com, to find more resources and materials to meet your goals.